In the high-orbit observation chamber, an alien tribunal watches with disbelief as a myth-wrapped human vessel enters restricted space. Panic spreads as the impossible becomes real. A chilling broadcast from the humans shifts the power dynamic in seconds and leaves the galaxy holding its breath. The watchspires above Velrune Prime had not flickered in 10,000 rotations. Each spire, a stalk of obsidian crystal laced with living alloys, pierced the clouds like silent judges. Within their orbits spun the High Observation Tribunal, a sanctum where galactic truths were watched, archived, and, if necessary, erased. Today, the tribunal screamed. "Impossible," hissed Chancellor Viren, his 6 eyes dilating at once. "That vessel bears no registration. It shouldn't exist." The central holosphere crackled with gravitational distortions. From beyond the Oort veil, an object had emerged without warning. No warp signature, no approach trajectory, no thermal bloom. It was simply there. Black. Still. Outlined against. The violet gas giant like a hunter in camouflage. "Play the myth tape," rasped Lorikeeper Cheetah, his fingers trembling. "The old human broadcast, the one we sealed under psychological contamination protocols. That's a myth," the security arbiter spat. "A fear artifact from the Earth siege. We destroyed them. We saw it burn. Then tell me why that silhouette matches the Leviathan-class design to within .2 era." The room went silent. Inside the holosphere, the black ship loomed larger. Its lines were wrong. Angular yet organic, not aerodynamic but tectonic. It looked less like a starship and more like the first nightmare a machine might dream. Its name glowed, not in plasma nor light, but absence, burned into the mind by its very shape. TNS Nemesis. "It shouldn't be there," Viren whispered. Again. Nemesis was a myth, a ghost. The humans broadcast stories of it during the fall. They wanted us to fear it. "Maybe," Cheetah murmured. "Or maybe they were daring us to forget." Aboard the Nemesis, silence. In the command chamber, blacker than the void outside, Commander Alex Rourke stood still, helmet under one arm, scars catching the dim red status lights like old war medals. No fanfare, no drums, just the low hum of the null core. "Status," she said softly. "Orbit stable, cloak nominal, no electronic chatter. They don't know what to do." A pause. "They thought we were a story," whispered Ensign Malik, young, voice too steady for someone born. "Long after the last war." "Everyone thinks that," Rourke said, her eyes on the slowly spinning planet below. "Until they see the teeth." "Transmission standing by," the comms AI offered. She nodded. The message had only 3 words, pre-recorded, ancient, a protocol encoded into the Nemesis's core command layer the day Earth's skies burned. She keyed it in. In the tribunal chamber, the holosphere shifted. The black ship pulsed once. No heat, no light. And then, a signal, no encryption, just a voice. Slow, human, terrible in its calm. "Myths don't bleed. We do." Panic. One observer fainted. Another began muttering in Old Veldari, a language reserved for funeral rites. What does it mean?" Cheetah's mandibles clicked. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It means the humans never left. They just waited until we stopped watching." Outside, the Nemesis began to move, slowly, deliberately. No weapons charged, it didn't need to. The tribunal's ancient protocols engaged, orbital shielding raised, dreadnoughts summoned. But deep in the encrypted systems of Velrune Prime, a line of corrupted code began rewriting defense parameters, a signal only Nemesis could have known how to send. Above the holosphere, a new signal appears. The AI can't translate it, but one word blazes in crude Terran glyphs. Orbit secured. The high dreadnought vessel of peace powered its plasma lance, targeting arrays narrowing on the intruder above. 8 auxiliary ships shifted in formation. blocking planetary descent vectors. Admiral Sorek stood at the dreadnought's helm, 3 hearts hammering behind ceremonial plating. He'd fought in the Ember Wars, he'd seen planets crack, but nothing triggered the gut level. Ancestral dread that Nemesis did. "Fire a warning shot," he ordered, voice clipped. "Near the hull, minimal charge. Show intent without provocation." "Admiral, we cannot acquire lock," he turned. "Explain." "The ship, it's there, visually, but the targeting system reads it as a void. No return, no material. Mass detected, no energy profile. It's as if we're targeting absence." "That's not possible. Sir, do it manually." A second passed, then 2. The ship's ancient weapon relays kicked in, primitive but reliable. They fired. The lance cut through space. A ribbon of sunfire arcing toward Nemesis. Impact. The bolt disappeared the instant it neared the human ship. Not flared, not deflected, vanished, like light into a black hole. No thermal bloom, no reaction. What is it made of? Unknown. It's drinking the laws of physics. Inside the tribunal, panic had become protocol. Dozens of sub-councils activated archived defense doctrines. The Myth Containment Division, long defunded, reduced to historians and skeptics, was pulled from stasis and marched to the primary command dais. They were greeted with weapons. "You knew." "We guessed." The division head said, skin pale, translator crackling from disuse. There were fragments, warnings carved into moons, ships that vanished near Sol, signals encoded in gravimetric noise, but no one believed. "We trusted you to keep the galaxy safe from Earth." "Earth is gone," the Mythkeeper whispered, but the ships were never bound to it. Nemesis wasn't made to protect humans, it was made to remember. Inside the Nemesis, human boots rang on cold alloy. Dr. Ilara Singh adjusted her collar, eyes tracing the inscriptions carved into the hangar bulkhead. Thousands of names. Not crew, not officers, victims. "Is it true?" she asked. Commander Rourke nodded. Every soul recorded into the hull. "Genetic echoes, memories uploaded before the fall. Nemesis remembers who paid. And now..." Rourke said nothing. She touched a panel. The hull responded with a pulse. Somewhere in the black vessel's core, neural fusion banks awakened. AI specters, war minds, encrypted wrath, the ship stirred. "We're not here to fire," Rourke said quietly. "We're here to let them remember. You can't bury what screams in the dark." Back on Velrune, orbital systems began to fail. Not catastrophically, not obviously. A scan glitch here, a protocol loop there. Tiny systems collapsing like dominoes. The planetary AI blinked. Directive rewrite detected. By who? Origin unknown. Trace it. Silence. "Trace it, damn it!" The AI responded in flat Terran standard. "You already did." The sky flickered, then dimmed. Nemesis was descending, slow, controlled, unarmed and unstoppable. Dust swirled in the high-altitude winds above Velrune Prime. From the ground, Nemesis looked like a black wound in the sky, not descending, but imposing itself, pushing gravity aside like an ancient god, reclaiming dominion. Emergency sirens wailed across the capital spires. Defense cannons, normally dormant ceremonial relics, rotated skyward, trembling in their housings as magnetic rail systems charged. Inside the planetary defense grid chamber, panic had turned to rage. "Why are we not firing?" barked Supreme Controller Dresh. "Why are the primaries still offline?" "We are overridden at the protocol route," the engineer stammered, tendrils flaring. "We cannot disengage the foreign command shell." "Override it manually." I can't." The command shell writes back. Every input becomes part of its logic. "You're telling me the human ship is teaching our systems to obey it?" "Not just obey. Adapt." 1,000 meters below, the palace core, sealed behind memory-locked alloy doors, a long dormant vault opened. Its walls were made of tungsten ceramic. Its contents, a single human data slab, It had been recovered 2 centuries ago from the wreckage of a Terran escort vessel at the Battle of Zeta 9. The slab had defied every attempt at decryption until now. The screen lit up of its own accord. Text scrolled. Nemesis, Stage 2, spectral entry complete. Empathic payload unlocked. The last line sent cold shudders through every living mind within 100 clicks. Commence memory strike. Commander Rourke stood in the observation deck as the sky beneath them changed color, not due to atmospheric pressure or heat distortion, but the bleeding in of spectral data. Target altitude achieved, the ship AI confirmed. Payload, ready. Do you wish to review content before execution? No, Rourke whispered. Let them see it raw. Velrune didn't burn. It remembered. The sky turned white. Not light. Data. Images streamed into every receptor, across the planet. Not propaganda, not threat displays, memories, the fall of Earth. Human children turned to glass shadows under orbital bombardment. Cities crushed under atmospheric rifts. Final broadcasts begging for help from an alliance that had already locked its gates. No speeches, no context, just raw feeds, filtered through Nemesis's empathic relay, grief rendered weapon. Every mind watching felt it, not as an observer, as a participant. Velrune wept. Shut it off, gasped Controller Dresh, clawing at his neural implant. Shut it off. It's not a transmission, someone sobbed. It's a broadcast of pain. On the ground, young Valari born long after the war dropped to their knees, unable to process the emotion. A single phrase repeated across the global network, autonomously inserted into every device. You buried our dead beneath your silence. Back aboard Nemesis, Dr. Singh stared at the monitor, voice hollow. We're not killing them. Not yet, Rourke said. Killing would be too kind. Then what is this? Justice, the kind that scars. A pause. We've just fired. The first shot. But we didn't. Not all wars start with weapons, Rourke said. Some start with memory. Beneath them, Velrune's orbital defense grid shut down. Entire regiments refused to report. The planet had cracked, not in steel, but in belief. The myths had come back, and they remembered everything. Velrunian broadcast intercept, translation verified, timestamp synced. This is First Auditor, Rel of the Velrune High Accord. We request immediate diplomatic intervention. The entity identified as Nemesis is not engaging kinetically, but has initiated catastrophic memetic warfare. Entire cities are in emotional lockup. Civilians are remembering deaths they never lived. It's collapsing our neural cohesion. This is not war. This is psychological extinction. High above the now silent world, Nemesis waited. The broadcast had ended 6 hours ago. It hadn't responded. Commander Rourke stood in the primary vault, surrounded by screens showing unreadable data spirals. Her voice was low. Are they asking for mercy yet? Not yet, Malik replied. But they're breaking. Not enough, Rourke murmured. Dr. Singh flinched. They're a civilization, not a species. Millions never fought us. They buried the truth, but they didn't cause it. Rourke turned. Do you think Earth burned because of generals, because of orders? She stepped forward. They voted. Billions. Watched us beg for help. Watched us drown in plasma storms. Closed their wormholes. Changed their maps. Made our pain a myth. We're not here for retribution. Then what are we here for? Singh snapped. Rourke smiled without humor. To remind the stars what a ghost looks like when it still has teeth. Inside the Velrune capital, emergency medical units collapsed under psychic feedback. Half the planetary AI grid now operated, in safe mode, unable to pass or categorize the new trauma layer infecting its population. Every child screamed in their sleep. Every elder saw flames behind their eyelids. A new term entered their language protocols overnight. Nemesis Syndrome. The High Tribunal reconvened in a fortified analog bunker deep beneath the polar crust. It was the last place on the planet untouched by the ship's signal. "We cannot win this," said Chittar flatly. "We still have fleets." "That ship is not a fleet. It's a judgment. We must surrender." There was silence. Then someone whispered, "To what?" The question held no sarcasm. No answer came. Above, within Nemesis's cognitive core, the ship AI ran a low-frequency simulation loop. Projected. Galactic response. 97% of neighboring systems had gone dark, not from attack, but radio silence. They were watching, measuring, remembering, and far below, buried in the Velrune understructure, a forbidden vault burst open. The files inside had been sealed since the last Galactic Tribunal. Inside them, human war simulations, psychology scans, capture footage of Earth's last stand, each file labeled with an archaic word in Terran Latin, inhumana. They had studied humans not as allies, not as enemies, but as anomalies. On the bridge of Nemesis, Rourke reviewed the intercepted file manifest. "They tried to classify us," she whispered. "Like a disease," Malik added. "No," she said. "Like a weapon. They were afraid. They hadn't built themselves." Back in the tribunal bunker, the atmosphere grew colder. One voice finally spoke, trembling. "Summon the archivist. He's been in stasis since the siege." "Then wake him up. He's the only one who's ever seen Nemesis before." A long pause. "Then he didn't survive the first encounter. Then wake up his memories." Above it all, Nemesis held its position, silent, waiting. Not for surrender, for acknowledgement. The kind that comes after mercy has already been taken off the table. The archivist's resurrection was not medical. It was reconstructive. Inside the memory chamber, bio-neural relays flickered over what remained of his brain. A desiccated matrix laced with carbon silk threads. A voice broke the cold silence. Memory scaffold stable. Consciousness thread reloaded. His eyes never opened. He had none. But when he spoke, everyone in the chamber felt the temperature drop. "You called it back. We didn't. You buried it. Then you forgot it. Now it has returned." "What is Nemesis?" "It was born from the ashes of trust," the archivist rasped. "You didn't just betray humans. You betrayed their idea of the galaxy. And when they broke, they built something to carry their brokenness forward. We need to stop it." "You can't. It was never designed to win. It was designed to remind. Remind us of what? What silence costs." On the orbital edge, Nemesis shifted. It was the first time it moved since descent. Not a weapon. Charge. Not an approach vector. It simply opened from its hull, thousands of black monoliths detached, descending in slow, silent drifts toward the planet's surface. No energy readings. No transmissions, just shape and presence. "Impact expected in 7 minutes, planetary AI warned. "Are they bombs?" "No explosive signature, no movement systems. They're not falling. They're being lowered." "By what?" "Unknown. And force. Gravity appears to obey them." Dr. Singh watched the descent from Nemesis's observation cradle. "What are they?" Rourke didn't answer. She just stepped closer. "Those are the pillars." "Pillars of what?" "Memory. Every atrocity we survived, every voice lost in vacuum, every child the stars forgot, each one is a grave marker." Singh went pale. "You're burying them here?" "No, we're burying the silence. When the monoliths touched ground, they didn't detonate. They sang. Not sound, not vibration, but resonance, emotion broadcast through air, and every Velrunian within kilometers felt it. Guilt, grief, fear, rage, not theirs. Ours, they collapsed. Screaming, weeping, convulsing, not in pain, in remembering. Entire temples cracked from the frequency. Birds fell from the sky. In a quiet village, an old veteran whispered through shaking limbs, "I was there. I signed the vote to ignore Sol." And beside him, his daughter watched his skin begin to glow faintly red. A resonance match. The monolith had marked him. Inside the high tribunal chamber, the archivist convulsed. "They're tagging those who knew," he gasped. "Not to kill. Not to imprison, to expose. Why? Because the next war won't be fought with fleets. Then with what? With truth and shame, and the ghosts of every lie you told yourselves to sleep at night." Back aboard Nemesis, Malik's screen flashed, new signal detected. Faint, off-world, encrypted in archaic Terran military code. He frowned. "Commander. External ping. Origin. Deep system. Not Velrune. Coordinates." He hesitated. "Earth." Rourke turned. "Earth is dead." Then someone sending from its grave. And across the stars, ancient arrays long buried under Martian frost began to wake, unmanned, forgotten, broadcasting the same pulse. Nemesis active. Phase 2 verified. Allies awaken. In the vacuum between Sol and the frontier systems, an orbit-locked relay long thought inert bloomed with ultraviolet pulses. It rotated once, precisely once, and then fired. A tight-beam quantum burst, leapt toward 3 dead colonies, 1 shattered moon, and a cold, iron-rich planetoid nicknamed the Spire. Only one responded, and it didn't speak. It awakened. Within Nemesis, Commander Rourke stood before the central war altar, a chamber built not of metal, but of carbonized bone and fused alloy. Human remains formed the architecture. Not a display, not morbid tribute, but code. Memory-encoded bone grown in orbit, layered with AI-compatible lattice. "They're answering the call," Malik said behind her. "Which ones?" "We don't know. They're not broadcasting IFF, just ignition pings." Dr. Singh turned slowly. "How many?" Malik's screen flickered. 13, so far." Rourke's breath caught. 13 of the 13. The silence pressed. In like gravity. In the Velrune undercrust, seismic alarms triggered, not from tectonics, from resonance feedback. The pillars were sinking, harmonizing like a chorus across thousands of kilometers. They weren't just memorials, they were nodes, broadcasting, building something. "It's forming a network," one panicked technician shouted. "Some kind of psychic lattice. It's tunneling into the planetary subgrid." "For what purpose?" "To rewrite us," the tech whispered. "What does that mean?" "Not physically, psychologically. It's altering how the population experiences memory, how they process guilt. It's constructing a new collective conscience, a beat, using our shame as the OS. Elsewhere, cloaked ships dephased across the stars. Each was unique. Each had no crew. Each bore a name long thought lost in ash. Judicator, Arcfall, Fury's Remnant, Sanction Prime, each had one shared protocol. Nemesis Phase 2 acknowledged. Phase 3 pending confirmation. Await the pulse. Rourke stood before Nemesis's central core, a swirling lens of crystallized dark matter surrounding a data coffin. The coffin had no lock, no hinges, only a name, engraved by hand. Not a soldier, a child. Lena Rourke, Dr. Singh noticed. The tremor in Rourke's hands. "Your daughter," Rourke nodded once. "She voted to broadcast the final Earth signal, when the rest of command voted to go dark, to die silent. That was suicide. No, that was defiance." She reached forward and placed her hand on the crystal. The ship breathed. Malik's voice came through, tight, shaken. "Commander, we just got a wide-beam signal from outside Velrune space. They're sending us coordinates." "From who?" "A listening post in the Adrax dust ring, human-made, built post-fall. Message reads, Gravekeeper responding, pulse ready." Singh stared. "What's the pulse?" Rourke looked her in the eye. "The thing that makes sure they never forget us again." On Velrune, every screen lit up. All at once, a face appeared, not Rourke's, not anyone living, a little girl, smiling, eyes bright, voice soft. We asked, "You for help. You said we were too loud, too angry, too primitive, so we got quiet. Now we're here to remind you what silence becomes when it's old enough to burn." She vanished. The screens stayed black, and then the sky lit up. One word blazed in Terran Standard, "Pulse incoming." The galaxy's silence ends in a moment of reckoning. As Nemesis prepares for the final protocol, ancient Terran warships awaken across the stars. On Velrune, reality begins to bend under the weight of a network built from guilt and memory. And then, across every world that once laughed at the myths, she speaks. The pulse did not explode. It arrived. No sound, no flare, no beam, just presence. Across 36 systems, the stars dimmed slightly. Sensors read no anomaly, yet every mind, human, alien, machine, twitched. Dreams faltered. Thought slowed. Clocks desynced by less than a nanosecond, and then the shift began. In orbit over Velrune, Nemesis's hull glowed along its fractal seams, not with energy, but memory. The ship remembered every death, every abandonment. It shared that remembering, like a contagion. Commander Rourke stood still in the core chamber. The coffin beneath her palm pulsed with the rhythm of a young child's heartbeat, one long lost. It wasn't a relic. It was the key. Coordinates confirmed, Malik reported. Gravekeeper is live. The pulse node it's priming. How long? Rourke asked. A pause. It's not a countdown. It's waiting for consensus. Dr. Singh frowned. Consensus from what? Malik turned, pale. From us, from everyone. The network touches. Rourke's hand clenched into a fist. Then it already knows. She stepped back. The coffin split open. Inside wasn't a body. There was never a body. Just a polished stone etched with Lena's handwriting. It read, "They'll forget us if we let them, so don't let them." On Velrune, the harmonic pillars resonated into visible light. Streets turned to projection grids. Walls shimmered with images, not holograms, memories, not Velrunes, humanities, the fall, the great silence, the exodus, the children buried in vacuum. The screams aboard the last refugee flotillas, the final vote, across cafes, hospitals, palaces, alien civilians dropped to their knees as foreign sorrow invaded their emotional reality. Not data, feeling, generations of loss woven into a new psychic substrate. This isn't an attack, one Velrune elder choked. It's a damnation. His aide stared at the burning sky. No, it's a reminder. In the Adrax dust ring, the Gravekeeper satellite unfolded ancient petals of tungsten armor. Inside, an engine hummed, one built not to kill, but to broadcast. The unfiltered sum of a species' pain. It didn't use radio or neutrinos. It used patterned trauma. Every war, every betrayal, every child who died, forgotten, encoded into memory-compatible waveform, amplified, injected into every known psychic-capable species' basal neural substrate. A collective cry. The galaxy heard. Back on Nemesis, Malik gasped. The ships, they're sinking? All 13. He paused. 14. One more just came online. No registry. It's not in any database. Rourke looked up. That's Lena's ship, she said quietly. The whisper. Every relay station in the Orion Arm blinked. At once, every archival database updated. Every star map now bore a mark over Earth's grave. A glyph. One word in every language. Remember, then she appeared again. The girl young, pale, eyes filled with stars. Not a ghost, not a threat, just a truth made flesh. She spoke only once. You can't make myths of us, she said. We were never yours to mock. The screen went black. Across the stars, the pulse finished blooming. Not a weapon, a seed. In every world, one child woke screaming, remembering a name they'd never heard. And the silence, it burned. They thought it was over. They thought memory was the punishment. They didn't understand. Memory was the ignition. On Velrune, the capital dome remained in darkness. Screens wouldn't reboot. Communication grids flickered but carried no signal. Only one system remained active. The resonance. Pillars. Every pillar continued to hum, softly, like lullabies from another age. Civilians wandered in dazed herds, eyes wet, murmuring fragments of human lives they had never lived. A mother held her own child, weeping, whispering lullabies in Terran standard she should not know. A priest refused communion, muttering, "We let the children drown, we watched them fall." Across the dome, panic brewed behind closed doors. "Shut them down," High Marshal Krylos snarled. "Destroy the lattice, use seismic dampeners." "Already tried," his science chief said, trembling. "They're alive. Every node reacts to tampering like an immune system, like it's defending itself. Then use weapons." A technician stepped forward, pale and sweating. "We did. Sir, they absorbed the energy, converted it into more projection capacity. Our own strikes are fueling it." "Fueling what?" The tech hesitated, then said simply, "A conscience." In deep orbit, the cloaked Terran vessels moved as one. 14 black shapes gliding without thrust, without signature, not ships, judgments. Each was distinct. No shared design, no standard layout. Some bore ceremonial armor, some were pitted. With centuries of damage, unrepaired on principle, they were not controlled, they were following. Nemesis led towards something unmarked on galactic charts, a hollow space inside a dead system, a myth even Terrans hadn't confirmed in life. Inside. "Nemesis," Rourke watched the nav trajectory unfold. "Is that it?" Singh asked quietly. Rourke nodded. "The archive." Malik swallowed. "I thought it was a lie." "So did we," Rourke murmured. "A fail-safe bunker, seeded with every Terran thought ever recorded. Dream streams, memories, biometric ghosts. The whole of Earth's pain, stored where it could, never be used." Singh looked out the viewport as the void grew closer. Until now. In the streets of Velroon, a child walked into the square alone. She wasn't Velroon, not anymore. Her skin flickered in and out of color, sometimes pale, sometimes gold. Her eyes glowed softly with the same pattern as the resonance pillars. She stopped, and she spoke. It wasn't a voice, it was every voice. "You tried to erase us," she said softly, "so we made ourselves unforgettable." The crowd froze. "You mocked our rage, so we made grief louder than rage." She lifted her hand. One pillar responded with a single rising note, a frequency felt more than heard. "It's not over," she said. The pulse was only the first word. She looked up, "And we are the sentence." In the cold black, Nemesis approached the archive. The system was dark. No suns, no planets, just debris, radiation, silence. Except something moved, a shape, cyclopean and geometric. A cube, kilometers wide, composed entirely of layered Terran alloy and crystalline memory gel. It had no thrusters, no doors. But as Nemesis approached, it opened, like a mouth, and the fleet followed. Far behind in the Adrax dust ring, the Gravekeeper satellite sent its final signal. Pulse phase D2 complete. Conscience awakening in progress. A waiting voice. Protocol. And then, begin the recollection. On Velroon, every child spoke a name, in perfect Terran cadence, as if they'd known it all their lives. Lena. And the stars pulsed once, faintly. The second breath of the pulse had begun. There is no pain like recognition, no torment like a lie finally undone by memory. The recollection did not arrive in fire, it arrived in mirrors. On every world once touched. By Terran hands, colonized, bombed, betrayed, or abandoned, the pulse seeded recollection nodes, invisible to radar, tangible to thought. At first, nothing changed. Then, the dreams started. Alien politicians wept from visions of Terran refugees they had never met. Soldiers remembered battles they'd never fought, but helped cause. Historians cried blood at the sight of redacted archives now reversing themselves. Memory wasn't just surfacing, it was being restored. Worse, it came with authorship. Each memory tagged, coded, sourced. Every denial undone by evidence from the victim. In the archive, Rourke stepped into dark infinity. The core had no gravity, no flaw, only beams of frozen light extending like a neural web across void. "Where's the system control?" Malik asked, floating behind her. Singh stared around them. "There isn't one." "There is," Rourke corrected. "You're standing in it." From above, a voice echoed, young, familiar, terrified. "Mom?" Rourke froze. A projection formed. The ghost of Lena Rourke, not the AI, not the avatar, the real one, down to the blood under her nails, the stitched backpack, the cracked voice from too many arguments with adults who stopped listening. "You shouldn't have opened me," she said. "I was safe in the dark," Rourke whispered. "We need you." Lena shook her head. "I remember everything, all of it. The riots, the silence, the vote, the children screaming. I remember dying just from the sound of it." "You didn't." "Oh, die? I did," she said quietly. "But I left behind a seed I didn't know it would grow." Rourke stepped closer. "Lena, they're remembering." "They don't want to," Lena said. "That's why they buried us. That's why they called us myths." "They don't get that choice anymore." Across the galaxy, statues melted into names. Propaganda flickered into first-person confessionals. Hidden crimes surfaced like rot beneath perfect paint, and on 100 worlds, war criminals collapsed from guilt that was never theirs, until now. A Velrune admiral dropped his blade and screamed through. Sobs. "I watched them die. I watched." A Tevrathi high priest burned his library himself, too afraid of what else might update next. The recollection didn't kill. It showed you who you were when you said nothing. In the archive, Lena stepped forward. The space around. Them folded. Malik gasped. A memory not his own surged into him. A Terran boy, 9 years old, watching a drone bomb vaporize his neighborhood from orbit. Then another. A colony counselor forced to log a final broadcast as oxygen ran out. "Everyone deserves to forget," Lena said. "No," Singh said quietly. "Everyone deserves to choose what they remember." That stopped Lena. She blinked, then nodded, and the archive opened. Data spilled like blood from a broken vessel, pouring into the fleet, into the network, into Nemesis itself. Final logs, children's. Art-screamed declarations, one phrase repeated, "Make us unforgettable." At that moment, Gravekeeper sent its last message, Phase 3 authorized, broadcast the voice. And Lena looked up. "Okay," she said, "I'll speak now." Across the stars, the pulse flared for the 3rd time, and this time it came with a voice the galaxy couldn't unhear. Not angry, not sad, just undeniably human. And the stars listened. The voice did not come as a command. It came as a confession. Across the galaxy, everything stopped. Ships froze mid-jump. Broadcasts cut to static. Power grids dimmed just enough for a whisper to pass through, and then a girl's voice, soft, clear, young, not booming through speakers, whispered into minds. "Hi," Lena said. "I'm not angry." She paused. "I used to be. I was so angry. I thought it would burn me alive. When the pulse started, I thought we were doing this to make them suffer a slow breath. But we're not. We're doing this to be heard." On Velrune, the resistance collapsed. Leaders tried to rally their people, tried to spin the pulse as manipulation, as viral code, as propaganda, but their own citizens couldn't ignore the images in their dreams, couldn't unsee the children on life rafts made of coolant drums, couldn't unfeel the sound of Earth going dark. One by one, they stopped listening to the old orders and started listening to her. "You thought we were myths," Lena continued. "Boogeymen, war stories. You taught your kids that we were too loud, too violent, too emotional. You didn't want to remember what you did, so we remembered for you. And now we're giving those memories back." The archive poured out across the galactic net. Every file unsealed, every erased record restored, every black box tragedy no longer hidden beneath layers of protocol and shame. But it wasn't just data, it was emotion. Lena spoke through it. A choir of the forgotten backing her. You thought silence was peace, that if you stopped hearing from us, it meant we were gone. But we didn't go. We waited. And in the dark, we learned something. On a mining moon near the Thark Verge, an entire generation of indentured workers wept openly. Their implants had locked them into distraction loops for decades. Until Lena's voice crashed the firmware. She didn't tell them to revolt. She just told them what used to be and what could be again. On Nemesis, Rourke stood motionless as the pulse's final waveform rippled outward. This was not war. This was truth at weaponized scale. No fleet could shoot it. No government could firewall it. This was what happened when you made a child the archive of a dead species and then left her alone for too long. Lena's voice softened. You can't say sorry. We're not asking you to. We're asking you to remember, so that next time, when you hear someone screaming in the dark, you listen. The fleet of Terran ghosts, Nemesis, Judicator, Sanction Prime, Whisper, align themselves into a constellation shape over the archive system, not a threat, a monument. In deep space, one final message blinked across every relay, one last act of mercy before the signal quieted. Memory lock in place. Data preserved, judgment withheld, reconstruction permitted, end pulse protocol. Back on Velrune, the skies cleared, the pillars stopped singing, and for the first time in 3 days, the stars didn't pulse, they just shone. In the ruins of a control chamber, a technician whispered, "Is it over?" A child beside him, still trembling, looked up. "No," she said softly, "but they're not going to hurt us." Then, what was it? She stared into the stars. The sound of being forgotten, remembering itself.